Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. You guys don't know yet, but I am doing NaNoWriMo this year, and I am planning to finish a book by the end of November. That being said, I didn't have any really definitive reading plans because I didn't want to stress myself out. So I've mostly been reading romances, and I decided to narrow the scope on the romances so that I was reading pumpkin spice themed romance reads. Because as you guys know, in the fall season, a lot of people make a big deal of pumpkin spice lattes, so I decided to make myself a little fun reading challenge to try and read 7 pumpkin spice themed romances in a week. So 7 books, 7 days, and some of these are just plain ridiculous, and I mean, they are all romances, but some of them have a better developed plot and a better developed character arc, whereas some of them are just smutty. So I will let you guys know the differences between them as we get into it. Okay, so if you are into romance, if you're into smut, or if you're into pumpkin spice themed things, then these might be for you. If those are elements that you are not interested in, then I will see you in another video because this is just straight up romance. So let's go ahead and get right on into it. So the first one I want to talk about is Blood, Paint, and Pumpkin Guts by J.D. Light. So in this one, we are following 2 main characters, Reed and Sloane. Reed is just coming out of a really abusive relationship where he was told that he is fat and to stop eating so much and basically treated like crap by his ex-husband. And then we're also following Sloane, who is an FBI investigator of people who are kidnapping shifters. When Sloane first runs into Reed, he knows that he's like his mate. This is like a shifter mate kind of novel. And things don't get off on the right foot. Reed is totally ignoring Sloane completely, won't answer him, and is being kind of a jerk to him in general. Now, I DNF'd this book for a few reasons. First off, it's kind of my fault because it's the 12th in a series, which I didn't take into consideration. I didn't realize that. So there was a lot that I didn't understand. Like every other character other than the 2 main characters, I had no idea what was going on. But the main reason that I DNF'd it though was because there were so many spelling errors, grammatical errors. It was really hard to tell also whose point of view we were in. I did get like 60% of the way through, but honestly I just did not care, so it was a DNF. So the next book I want to talk about is Pumpkin Spice Daddy by Ava Sinclair, which I gave 2 stars. Okay, so a lot of these have quite interesting titles, and Pumpkin Spice Daddy is definitely one of those. So we're following Jenny Pruitt, who is an elementary school teacher. So she is taking her kids to a farm field trip when she runs into Philip Boone, who is the young nephew of the farm owner. The reason this gets so low of a star for me is that, wow, was it fast, fast, fast. Like, this is a total wham bam, thank you ma'am, like, really fast, like no development whatsoever. And also like some of my favorite lines was, he's like, oh, I can tell you're a bad girl, and then she's like, does that make you a bad boy? And he's like, no, I'm your bad daddy, or like, I'm your daddy. And I'm like, okay. And then like a spanking scene ensues and she's like, I wasn't even bad, and he's like just spanking her, and I'm like, wow, the development in here is unreal. So Pumpkin Spice Daddy does have pumpkin spice, because the main character isn't like other girls and she hates pumpkin spice. And then Philip, who is all about fall, he has a pumpkin farm, and he becomes her questionable daddy. So yeah, 2 stars, let's go ahead and move on. Okay, so the next one I want to talk about is Pumpkin Spiced Omega by Susi Hawke, and this one I gave 2.5 stars. So, okay, so we are following Milo, who is a very mild-tempered Omega who is running a candy shop called Sweet Balls with a Z on the end there. And he is being sued because someone basically stole his grandmother's recipe and says that he stole it from them. There's this huge debacle, and to make matters worse, he has lost the family home and it's recently gone up for sale. Enter Raph, who is a kind of runaway billionaire playboy. That's what everyone thinks he is, but really he is a writer who writes under a pseudonym, and he's just looking to escape like his family life in the city. And then things ensue from there. The reason that this gets 2.5 is that it's pretty lighthearted, it's really sweet. I liked their dynamic. There's no surprise what's gonna happen. It is what it is. And Honestly, some parts, the reason it gets so low is because it was high on the cheese factor. A lot of puns all over the place. Fall puns, ghost puns, Halloween puns, Omega Alpha puns, like just all the puns ever. And the reason that also this book was interesting was because it is an Alpha Omega universe, but not like there's shifters, more like there's Mpreg, which if that's not your cup of tea, I'm just, you know, letting you know. Yeah, so this was 2.5, cheesy but sweet. The next one I want to talk about is Pumpkin and Spice by Abby Knox. So this one doesn't have to do with shifters at all. It is just a contemporary romance. So we are following Maxine Pumpkin Novak, who was given that unflattering nickname in childhood when she wore an unflattering orange sweater and she was a bit on the chubbier side. And we also follow Talbot Stoner Spice, and he was given the nickname Stoner because, like, you can guess why. And their first interaction in high school was pretty much when, on the night of graduation, when Pumpkin and her friend went out drinking. Some guys were gonna roofie them and like do bad things, and then Stoner basically stepped in and drove them home and was basically a gentleman, but he had a crush on her like the whole time of high school, and she secretly wanted him to ask her out. He didn't because he was shy and she was shy, and you know, miscommunication and lost chances. So when she comes back to the hometown for the holidays, she runs into him at the bar because he's now the bar owner, and things ensue from there. The good parts about this novel was that I really did like the chemistry between the two main characters, Stoner and Pumpkin, and the reasons why it only gets 2.5 stars is that, again, it was insta love, which you guys know I don't like insta love, so it was never gonna be that high for me. However, I did like some of the darker elements that were in here. I love that the Pumpkin and Spice in this were the two main characters rather than like the actual Spice. I thought that was pretty cute. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to my 3-star and above books. So the first 3-star book I want to talk about is In Her Pumpkin Patch by Alina Jacobs. Okay, so pretty much all of the titles in this series by Alina Jacobs are all pretty much food-based sex puns. So In Her Pumpkin Patch definitely is mentioned throughout the book as what you think it is. And we are following Penny, who has come home, and she is a freelance writer who's not really doing that great, so she's come home to stay for the Halloween season and try to like get her swing back, like get a job and get herself back on her feet. And then when she's on the train home, she sees a little boy who's like unattended and he's crying, and she sits down and offers some of her Halloween cookies, and she sees like this like his ticket pinned to him, and it says like he's being picked up at the station that she's getting off at. So when she gets off with him, she berates the guy who picks him up, and that turns out to be Garrett, who is the older brother, not the father. And basically the story is like Garrett's whole family used to be in a poly cult, and he's slowly trying to smuggle his siblings out of the cult. So there's like a million main characters on Garrett's side because his current family in his house has 22 people. And Penny, she lives in her grandmother's like haunted house where there's 2 twins who are basically like kind of evil twins. They're not truly evil, but they're creepy. And she has an intern job, and it turns out when she goes for that job as a temp, you know, Garrett is the owner of the company. That's how that goes. The reason it gets 3 stars is because I did truly like the story. It's very sweet because Penny loves Halloween and loves everything to do with it. Garrett is like a curmudgeon, and he is really, really just grumpy, which is just cute. I like that storyline. But the reason it gets 3 is because, wow, could the plot have been cut down a lot. Like, this book was over 400 pages, and it could have easily been 200. I think that there was a lot of like stuffing in there that did not need to be. Also, there were so many sex scenes that I was like, okay, it's a lot. It's a lot. It's like way too much. So the tension in the beginning was great. I really loved it. Points for that. Points for like the middle sex scenes, and then like all of the other sex scenes, like overkill. Way overkill. Also, so much cheesy puns in this, like everywhere. Just all of the cheesy puns forever. Oh my god, wait, rewind. The last book that I was talking about, where one of the main characters is named Stoner, they kept saying Stoner's boner. Unforgivable. truly unforgivable. My husband's laughing on the side. It's unforgivable. Like, it pulled me out of the sex scene totally. Like, stoner's boner, like, RIP, please never say that. And the same thing with some of this, like, she kept saying, in my pumpkin patch. Completely unforgivable. It's not, no, just stop. Please stop. Like, oh my god. I appreciate a good pun, but like, so many related to sex is like, I can't. I really can't. So yeah, I gave this one 3 stars. It's pretty good. I did actually sign up to the author's reading list or whatever, because she says that she's coming out with a short that goes off of the end of this book, which is called In Her Pumpkin Pie, which, like, I mean, how can you not read that? So my second favorite is Pumpkin Cream Pie by Kiki Burrelli. Now I know what you're thinking, that title is heinously dirty, and you're right, it is, and that's why I picked it up. However, it's not actually as dirty as the title implies. This is one of the least smutty books on this whole list, so I was shocked. So we follow 2 main characters. Seamus is a 19-year-old kind of hooligan. He's very angry at the world because stuff happened in his past that he still hasn't gotten over, and he carries a lot of rage with him. And we first meet him when he's trying to burn down the school where his brother attends and is picked on for having learning difficulties. Seamus is a Hawke shifter, and when he is caught in the middle of trying to burn down the school and the school library, he's brought in by the police. He's offered basically community service with a woodworker, and the woodworker is Theo, who is a rabbit shifter, and the rabbit shifter is the head of his rabbit clan, and he also is the lead woods craftsman, and he decides to take Seamus basically under his wing and teach him like about woodworking and also about kind of being nice and not a huge jerk. And also about being held accountable and all that kind of stuff. So as the novel progresses, Theo helps Seamus come off of being an alcoholic, smoking, and also being accountable and being kinder. And it was like such a good development. I really enjoyed it so much. This one is, like I said, a shifter universe where there are different clans. Hawke and Rabbit, I believe, is described. There's also a spider clan. There's like some interesting ones, not the usual like bear, wolf, whatever. This one also has MPreg. It also has queer main characters. So like, if it's not your thing, no big deal. I really enjoyed it, and I thought that it was really sweet. And also the way that they talked about how people were treating Seamus, like he had done bad things, yes, but he was constantly being blamed for things that were not his fault, and like people just like relentlessly never giving him a second chance. And I really liked that the book set that up, and we got to see the character arc grow like so well over time that, yeah, it was just great. So my favorite book also gets 3 stars. It is The Pumpkin Patch by Kade, Boehme, and Darien Knox. We are following Max and Dusty. So Dusty is the owner of the Pumpkin Patch. Actually, it's a huge farm where, unfortunately, the year before, his family was brutally murdered. So his mother and father were murdered very gruesomely in the barn, and it was assumed that the autistic son had done it, although his body was never found, just his clothes and his shoes and a lot of blood down near the river. And everyone is basically scared of Dusty in the town, and he's just trying to get his life back into order, and he's trying to grow the pumpkins that his mother really loved to make pumpkin pie from, but someone keeps stealing the pumpkins at night, so he needs to hire someone to help guard the pumpkin patch and also against vandals that keep egging his house. So he ends up hiring Max, and Max had a life and a career in Boston where he just graduated from university with a degree in environmentalism, but his mother is really ill and battling cancer, so he decides to come home and take care of her. But he needs to find a job. So when he goes to apply for the job, he first shows up at Dusty's house, and they do not get on well at all. Dusty is very curmudgeonly, and he's very used to people thinking the worst of him and trying to find out more about the murders, and like he's just grieving, and he just kind of shuts himself off from everyone. Whereas Max is also trying to deal with his sick mother, his overworked sister, and also he is like scared of the dark, so being in the pumpkin patch at night to make sure no one steals the pumpkins is not his ideal job, but he's trying to make it work. and the story goes from there. So this had, I think, the best plot of all the books that I read, and it was really good. Really sad at parts, really great at parts, really funny at parts. This has queer main characters. It also has trigger warnings for like murder, gore, sexual assault. And I think that the reason that this book is so high for me is because the motivations of the characters was so well fleshed out, because they each were going through things that were so difficult that like you really felt for them. So when they had miscommunication, or when they had kind of ill feelings, or they were stressed or something like that, like you actually felt for them, and it wasn't just like a wham bam thank you ma'am like scenario. There were steamy sex scenes in here, but definitely slow burn, great scenes, some really dark scenes, some really great scenes, and I give it 3 stars, maybe even 3.5 stars. I think that, yeah, it's just overall really good, and I do recommend this one. If you like queer romance and you can handle a bit of gore and a bit of darker content, then this would be maybe perfect for you. I think I'm gonna upgrade this to 3.5 stars actually, now that I'm thinking about it. I'm looking forward to reading more from them. I don't know what else they've written, but hopefully they have written something for Christmas, because I'd like to probably do this again at Christmas, because I just think it's really fun to read a bunch of romances that I have no expectations for. Most of them are under 150 pages, and it's just a good time. So if you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up or hit the subscribe button. That would be great. I look forward to chatting to you guys in another video. Thank you so much for watching. I will chat to you later. Bye!